As expected, yet another lawsuit has been filed against IBM alleging racial discrimination of a former employee. And this was not the first lawsuit we've seen, and it's probably not going to be the last one we see regarding this either. And here's what's crazy about this. Over the next couple of days, you will notice very few tech news outlets actually covering this story, and the very few that will, and there will be a couple that do it because this is going to get a little bit of mainstream traction. The few that do cover it, I guarantee you will find a way to vilify the person who is bringing this lawsuit against IBM. So the person who got discriminated against, I guarantee the various articles from the tech news sites will find a way to vilify that guy. Guarantee it, because that's how it happened last time. The last time there was a lawsuit against a former Red Hat employee alleging racial discrimination, among other things. And the only tech news outlet that covered it, other than the Lunduke Journal, was the Register. The Register then, in that one article, spent more time vilifying that guy who got discriminated against than anything else. It was crazy. And they tried to tie it in with political movements and vilifying the lawyers and vilifying the victim. And it was crazy. And I guarantee you it's going to happen again. This news just broke, and I'm gonna read the article that I just posted over to lunduke.locals.com to you now, along with part of the lawsuit, because it's kind of interesting. The fallout from the IBM Red Hat leaks continues with yet another lawsuit filed against IBM by a former employee alleging racial discrimination. In this latest lawsuit, Randall Dill, a former IBM employee, says that the company fired him because he is a white man. This follows another similar lawsuit filed against Red Hat, an IBM subsidiary, back in May, and the state of Missouri filing a lawsuit against IBM in June, both of which focused on racial discrimination based on both leaks and public statements from IBM. Now, considering the vast quantity of evidence, including videos of both the IBM and Red Hat CEOs' public statements, leaked presentations, and all sorts of other documents. By the way, I have links to all of this stuff if you'd like to go read it, vet it, and really understand it for yourself. Most of this was leaked by the Lunduke Journal because that's what we do. But I've got links to all of it here, so you don't have to take my word for anything. You can go watch the CEOs talk about it on camera, so you can see the evidence for yourself. I continue. All of which makes it very clear that IBM knowingly and purposefully has been breaking the law by racially discriminating against employees. It is not surprising that we are seeing a steady stream of lawsuits against the company. So I'm going to read a little bit of the Dill v. IBM lawsuit to you now. I truly find this very fascinating. And what's really interesting here is that these lawsuits are all settling into a very clear groove, a very clear pattern, because it's just such an absolute slam dunk case, because you have so much evidence. It's overwhelming amounts of evidence. I mean, when you've got the CEOs of the company on video, multiple CEOs in multiple videos, not just admitting to guilt, but bragging about guilt, it's very, very difficult to mount a proper defense when those actions are distinctly illegal. So I'm going to read some of this to you now here. This lawsuit is to remedy unlawful employment conduct, namely discrimination based on race and sex. As alleged further herein, Mr. Dill was a model employee at IBM Consulting, most recently having completed a 4-year assignment at the Department of Defense, where he received outstanding performance reviews. Then, in July of 2023, out of the blue, IBM placed Mr. Dill on pretextual, vague, and unmeasurable performance improvement plan. Performance improvement plans. Those never bode well. where am I at here? Offered him no support and terminated him in October. At the same time, corporate leadership was under pressure from the CEO and financially incentivized to hire people based on their skin color and sex. Mr. Dill, not being in the current preferred demographic, was terminated so IBM could pursue its illegal racial quotas. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits employment discrimination on the basis of race or sex in the United States. See, it's really hard to get around this. I mean, it's so distinctly illegal that it's just, you can't get around it. I continue. Defendant, International Business Machines Corporation, IBM, engages in intentional discrimination based on race and sex through the guise of diversity and inclusion, and it pushes its business divisions and subsidiaries, including Red Hat, including IBM Consulting, to do the same. As part of its diversity and inclusion program, IBM reports demographic statistics regarding its employees in its annual reports to investors, its annual ESG reports, and its Form 10-Ks filed with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission through incorporation by reference. IBM incentivizes its executives to engage in impermissible race and sex discrimination by having, quote, executive compensation metrics that include a diversity modifier to reinforce our focus and continued accountability for improving the diverse representation of our workforce, end quote. That's a sentence and a half. International Business Machines Corporation's 2022 Annual Report 16 of 2023. There's a link there so you can go read it. That's where that quote came from. In other words, IBM conditions executive compensation on how much the company discriminates in hiring. And just as an aside, I've gone over this in excruciating detail in the IBM Red Hat leaks. If you have not read the details of the IBM Red Hat leaks, it goes over how they do all the discriminatory training, video clips from both IBM and the Red Hat CEO, details of how they handle executive compensation based on discriminatory hiring. Like if you hire less white people, you get paid more. It's extraordinarily illegal. If you have not read all of those yet, go do that because it's just insane. In this case, I'm going to continue with the lawsuit for just a few more sentences. In this case, IBM engaged in sex and race-based employment discrimination against Mr. Dill in violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Yeah, Mr. Dill brings this action to vindicate his rights under these statutes and obtain legal and equitable redress for IBM's unlawful discrimination. Okay, wild. And you can go into detail. I link to the PDF of the full lawsuit so you can read the full filing for yourself. You don't have to take my word for anything. You can go read it all for yourself. But I do have some additional thoughts. Regardless of what you or I think about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. You may like it, you may hate it, you may not care at all, you may just be tired about hearing about it, regardless of what you or I think about any of this, and what you or I think about applying the DEI stuff to employment policies. There is no denying the negative impact that these policies are having on IBM and all of its subsidiaries, including Red Hat, the largest Linux company in the world. We're talking about legal and financial ramifications up the wazoo, hugely bad press, huge hits to employee morale. All of these things are impacted in an extraordinarily negative way because of IBM's choice to discriminate against their employees based on ethnicity and gender, right? So regardless of what you or I feel about the politics of DEI or whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, we almost have to put that aside for a moment, because what we're really talking about here is a direct, measurable, and distinctly negative impact on some of the world's largest software and computer companies. I mean, we're talking IBM and Red Hat here. Red Hat's the king of Linux and open source stuff. And they're being sued. And they're part of IBM, which is being sued, including not just employees, but by the government itself because of all this. And this is just the beginning of this phase. Right? The first, last 7-8 months or so has been reporting on all this, has been the handful, and when I say handful, I mean like 2, of journalists that exist that have been reporting on these illegal activities, thanks to all of the whistleblowers from within inside Red Hat and IBM that have been sending the Lunduke Journal and others some stuff. All of that's been getting out. It then takes a little bit of time, because lawsuits take a little while to get going. Employees and former employees have to be convinced that they should even file a lawsuit. It takes a while. It's not, you don't blink an eye, snap a finger, and all of a sudden, boom, you have a million lawsuits, right? It takes a little while for that to get rolling. But now you'll notice we're now on lawsuit number 3 over the last couple of months. This is accelerating, right? Because we have the state of Missouri suing IBM. We have former employees suing Red Hat and IBM. And it is very difficult to imagine, should these cases actually go to a jury trial, should that happen, it is difficult to imagine that the defendants here, IBM and Red Hat, actually come out victorious. It's hard to imagine how they would defend themselves because they are on video bragging about breaking the law, right? And then they publish these PDFs about how they broke the law real good. And then they published presentations and slide decks and gave internal training, which we've published a whole bunch of that, about how they love breaking the law and they want to break the law more and they want to encourage more people to break the law. I mean, like it's so overwhelming that even if a judge were to toss out 80% of the evidence, that the remaining 20% is still a small mountain of evidence. Like, it's just so much. It's an easy slam dunk case. So it's hard to imagine going forward and not seeing more lawsuits. These are huge companies, and I personally know of several stories of individuals who have been impacted by this. And it's going to be a big deal. We've got several months left in 2024. I would be very much surprised if we left the current year without several more lawsuits, including from more government agencies and from former and current employees of both IBM and Red Hat and some of the other subsidiaries as well. So anyway, there's the current thing. Now, if you work for a tech company, whether it's IBM and Red Hat or Microsoft or Amazon or anything, and you've witnessed something that the public should know about, like what we've published with all of these leaks that have resulted in so many lawsuits, and you want to become a whistleblower, but you don't know where to start, or you just are really worried about keeping your identity a secret from your employer because you need that job. The Lunduke Journal has a how to become an anonymous whistleblower guide. It's very simple. It's just a page or two with some links and some pictures and some step-by-steps where you can walk through creating an anonymous email account. There's a lot of ways to do it. I provide one in this little guide. There's a lot of options out there, along with how to send files, large files, to the Lunduke Journal while remaining somewhat anonymous, right? So you don't have to post your files to your personal Dropbox or Google Drive account. You can send them anonymously to the Lunduke Journal. We try to make that as easy as possible. The Lunduke Journal should make this clear, always protects the identities of all confidential sources. You'll notice when you go through and read Any of the articles from the Lunduke Journal that include leaked details, whether it's presentations or videos and whatnot, the Lunduke Journal never publishes the original file. What we do is we take screenshots of the files, we scrub files of all metadata because we change file names, everything, because we want to do everything humanly possible to protect the identity of the whistleblower that provided that information. It's absolutely critical. Now, if you want the world to know who you are, great. Thumbs up. You have the full support of the Lunduke Journal. But if you're afraid of having your employer find out who you are, we can work with you to help make sure your identity remains protected and a secret. So if you go to lunduke.com, there's a link on the middle of lunduke.com that is called Lunduke Journal Link Central. Click that link, and right near the top there will be a little guide about how to become a whistleblower for the Lunduke Journal to walk you through all of that stuff. Or you can just email me. All those are links and details are there as well. And with that, I would like to say once again, thank you to the subscribers to the Lunduke Journal. Because of your support, we don't have to take any money from any company ever. No ads, no corporate sponsorships, nothing, which means no company, not IBM, not Red Hat, not Microsoft, not anyone can influence what the Lunduke Journal says ever. Not Google, nobody. No one has a say in it. And that's entirely 100% thanks to all of you. So if you have a Lunduke Journal subscription, high five. You're amazing. If you don't have one yet, go ahead and grab one. Lunduke.locals.com and lunduke.com. Both those will get you to where you need to go. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare, end broadcast.